What is up, everybody? Matt Moda here with Daily Grind Fantasy, and I have two DFS slips for you guys for Sunday Night Football. We got Dolphins at the Eagles. I got one PrizePicks, and I got one Underdog. Each of them using the Daily Grind Fantasy correlation tool, which is an amazing tool that we will talk through. To give you a hint, the first play of my first slip, which is going to be this PrizePicks one here, it's going to be Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So if you want to log into PrizePicks, add the Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns to your slip. The rest will come in a little bit. I first just want to talk through the Daily Grind Fantasy correlation tool. It's an amazing tool. What it does is it finds plays that are on the DFS books that are positively correlated together. And when I say positively correlated, I mean there's a positive correlation between each of the legs of each slip, which is really, really cool because if you think about it, if you take a correlated slip, correlated at same game parlay on FanDuel, on DraftKings, they are going to very much lessen the payout of that same game parlay because they're taking into account the fact that you're placing a correlated same game parlay, a correlated slip. The DFS books don't do that. PrizePicks, Underdog, they give you the same exact payout, whether or not the plays you're putting in are correlated or not. So because of that, you can find some really, really good value on these correlation slips. To further demonstrate just how profitable the Daily Grind Fantasy DFS correlation tool is, so they tracked every single slip that shows up on the tool. Tracked it starting on August 18th to today. And they are up 281 units in almost exactly 2 months. That is incredible. Think about it. You're up basically 140 units per month using the DFS correlation tool. So think about it. If you're a $10 unit bettor, you are up $1,400 a month, $2,800 in 2 months total, using the correlation tool with an ROI per wager of 32.87%. For those of you that are not super experienced in the sports betting world, an ROI of 32%, just below 33%, is obscene. The best sports bettors in the world have an ROI of like 3%. 32% is insanity. So I know the monthly cost might be a little bit scary, but just think about the profits that you are getting from using the DFS correlation tool. It is incredible. And to talk through the actual slip itself. So again, I'm going to talk about this PrizePicks one first, then I'm going to go with Underdog. As I mentioned, the first leg here on PrizePicks is going to be Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. What I want to talk through first before I get into the slip are these two numbers here, the profit margin, and then this is your percent, like basically giving you how correlated the plays are. And I want to talk about this one first. So the 91.49%. This is the correlation score. Again, telling you exactly how correlated each of the plays are. 91.49 is the percent. It is a 91.49% correlation. What this looks at is the correlation coefficient between each leg. And I know the correlation coefficient between each leg sounds like a mouthful. All you really need to know, like I mentioned, is it's giving you the numbers of exactly how correlated each of the individual legs are together. For example, I mentioned that we're taking Jalen Hurts passing touchdowns. Let's pretend we're also taking his over passing yards. If Jalen Hurts goes over his passing yards, well, guess what? The Eagles receivers are also more likely to go over their passing yards. And that's what it looks at between each leg. So as I mentioned, the correlation score of 91.49 and then a profit margin of 171.89%. Obviously, a profit margin of 171% is insane. So the profit margin what this number looks at is the correlation score. And then it also adds into the fact, the account of the profit margin of each individual leg. Basically saying each individual leg of this PrizePicks slip is going to be positive expected value. The profit margin adds all them up together and then also adds in the correlation score as well. So this first one is really, really good. And then the last point I'll make before I get into the slip is you're wondering, why are we taking a 6-pick flex for PrizePicks. Why are we taking a 5-pick non-insured for Underdog? It's because those are the most optimal number of legs in an entry from a math perspective. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to go to the DFS optimizer. So right now I'm on PrizePicks. If you click this little drop down here, plus EV plays, what it does is it pulls up the odds for every single possible number of legs in an entry you can have, from 2 all the way down to 6. And these parentheses are the actual odds. So a 2-pick power, each individual leg has the implied odds of minus 136, going from 3 with the flex to minus 144 to minus 140. And then we see right here, 5-pick flex and 6-pick flex. These are the best options that you're going to find on PrizePicks from a math perspective. You see the implied odds of minus 119 on each of a 5 and a 6-pick flex. So I know that it sounds scary because you need the most amount of plays to hit, the most amount of individual legs to hit. But from a long-term actual trying to make money perspective, 5 and 6 picks is the way to go. And it's the same thing, but for 5 picks, but for Underdog, we see 5 picks non-insured, minus 122. Insured is also pretty good at minus 120. 3 picks non-insurance is also good at minus 122. And then we see the rest not quite as good. Minus 136, minus 137, minus 128. So 6 picks on PrizePicks, 5 picks non-insured or insured on Underdog is the way to go. And it'll tell you right here. So you don't need to know the reason why. I just like to tell people that because you're probably wondering, okay, why are we playing 6 picks? Why are we playing 5 picks? And that's why, because they're the most optimal from a math perspective. Now let's get into our PrizePicks slip. We have, as I mentioned, our first leg here is Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Next up, we are taking the Dolphins quarterback Tua to go over his passing yards of 273.5. Correlated to the Tua passing yards is both Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to go over their receiving yards prop as well. Jalen Waddle's is over 59.5. Tyreek Hill, it's a very high number, over 96.5. That is a little bit scary just how high it is, but Tyreek Hill is incredible. And then we are also taking Devontae Smith over his receiving yardage prop as well, over 60.5. And then the last one, our 6th and final pick, specifically for this PrizePicks one, is Jake Bailey under 3 punts. So the correlation with this punts one is we're expecting the Dolphins to have a good day passing the ball. We think Tua is going to go over his passing yards, and we think both of the top 2 receivers on the Dolphins are going to go over their passing yards as well. Because of that, we're expecting them to have a good game. If the Dolphins offense has a good game, they probably aren't punting a lot. So we're going to take the Dolphins punter to go under 3 punts. And if this hits exactly 3, let's just pretend this hits exactly 3 and the other 5 hit, then this will just get voided, and then you'll just get the payout based on a 5-pick entry. So you'll still, I think, 20x your money if he lands at exactly 3 punts and every other play hits. So this is our PrizePicks one. As I mentioned, I have an Underdog one for you as well. To confirm, the profit margin of this PrizePicks slip, 171.89%, just crazy. The correlation score of 91.49. Again, measuring the correlation coefficient between each leg, telling you how correlated are these picks actually. 91.49% is pretty good, as is 88.97. Now the profit margin is a little bit lower at 87.6%, but this one is still really good. So we're going to take this Underdog slip as well. Correlation score 88.97, profit margin 87.6%. Let's talk through this slip for Underdog. And it's very similar, right? So you might be kind of concerned about taking multiple of the same exact leg on multiple slips, but if it's positive expected value, I still think that it is worth taking on multiple slips because at the end of the day, you're just trying to maximize the amount of positive EV plays you had. And despite the fact that we're taking Hurts twice, Tua twice, Waddle twice, essentially Tyreek Hill twice, I get that it's scary, and it all just depends on your risk tolerance. If you are try to be a little bit less risk, you have a lower risk tolerance, then maybe just take the PrizePicks one. If you are like me and you have a little bit of a higher risk and you're willing to play multiple slips with the same prop, I definitely would recommend taking this underdog one because if we get both to cash, we are really, really hitting pretty. And here is the underdog slip. Hurts again over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Tua again over his 273.5 passing yards. We are again taking Jalen Waddle over his receiving yards. And this time we're taking Tyreek Hill over 99.5 rushing plus receiving. So a little bit different, but essentially the same thing because we assume the majority of this is going to come with his receiving yards. But if he does break one on an end around, then it will at least count towards underdog. And then we're also taking Raheem Mostert under 48.5 rushing yards, which makes sense because if we're all on Dolphins passing, presumably they won't have as much success running the ball. And so this is our underdog slip, 5 picks, non-insurance, with our PrizePicks one being a 6-pick flex. And that's all I got. 2 DFS slips for you guys to lock in using the Daily Grind Fantasy correlation tool. The performance speaks for itself. Up 281 units in almost exactly 2 months is insane. So I definitely recommend checking it out. And that's all I got. So I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good one.